So a man kicks in your front door at 2 a.m. Your kids are asleep down the hall. Your wife is next to you. You have seconds to decide. Now, what does Jesus want you to do? Because on one page of the Bible, Jesus says, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Do not resist an evil person. And on the other page, he says that let the one who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. So same Jesus, same red letters. And for 2,000 years, Christians who love God and take the Bible seriously have landed in two different places on this. And both sides have receipts. So we're going to talk about those today. So today we're not going to do what every other video does and pretend it's obvious. We're going to lay out what the earliest Christians actually believed about violence and self-defense. And watch how it's going to develop. And put the hardest text on the table honestly. By the end, you'll understand the two streams and you'll be equipped to decide where you stand with your eyes open. So, this one's for every man who's ever sat in church on Sunday and wonder what he's actually supposed to do Monday night. Turn the other cheek, or protect your family. So let's start with what Jesus actually said. Start where it starts. The Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5. You have heard it said, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Now, here's the detail that unlocks the whole passage, and almost nobody teaches it. The right cheek. Think about it physically. If I'm facing you and I strike your right cheek, I'm right-handed. I have to hit you with the back of my hand. In the ancient world, a backhand slap wasn't an attack, it was an insult. It's how a master demeaned a servant, how a superior humiliated an inferior. It was about honor, not injury. So when Jesus says, turn the other cheek, he addressing the world of personal insult and retaliation, the tit for tat cycle of you disrespected me, now I disrespect you. He's forbidding personal vengeance. He's killing the ego's demand for payback. That is not obviously the same thing as a home invasion or a man defending his children from a killer. Some Christians say it stretches to cover exactly that, total nonviolence. Others say Jesus is dealing with personal honor and revenge, not the protection of the innocent. Hold that tension, we're coming back to it. Now, notice that Jesus does in Gethsemane. Peter draws a sword and cuts off a man's ear, defending Jesus. And Jesus says, put your sword back. All who draw the sword will die by the sword. He heals the man he was just attacked for. So the personal example of Jesus is his own arrest, is to refuse the sword. That's a heavy data point. Both sides have to reckon with it. So now let's do what this channel does. Check the receipts. What did the Christians closest to the apostles actually do? Here's the historical record. Leans hard on one direction for the first 3 centuries. The early church was famously radically nonviolent. Tertullian, around 200 AD, wrote that when Jesus disarmed Peter in the garden, he quoted, "Unbelted every soldier." He argued a Christian shouldn't even serve in the Roman army. Around the same period, one of the greatest minds of the early church responded to a critic named Celsus, who accused Christians of being useless to the empire because they wouldn't fight. Origen didn't deny it. He said Christians fight for the emperor, but with prayers, not swords. That they'd be taught by Jesus not to take up arms against anyone. Now, Justin Martyr in 155 AD pointed to Isaiah's prophecies into plowshares and said, look, that's us right now, former fighters who have laid down our weapons. And there is an early church order, the apostolic tradition, that put serious restrictions on whether a soldier or a new convert in the military could even be baptized. Why so strong? 2 reasons. And this is important for being fair. Part of it was a deep conviction that following the Prince of Peace meant refusing to kill. But part of it was practical. The Roman army required emperor worship, pagan oaths, and idolatry. So being a soldier was tangled up with denying Christ, not just with violence. Honest history holds both reasons together. Now, here's the nuance even with this stream. Much of what those men addressed was warfare and personal vengeance. The arena, the battlefield, the honor duel, the specific case of a father standing between his child and a murderer is not the scenario they're usually writing about. Keep that in your back pocket. For 300 years, the dominant Christian instinct was clear. We don't kill, we die, we forgive, we outlove them, and it converted an empire. Here's the shift that Augustine brought. What changed? History changed. In 313 AD, the Christianity became legal, and within a lifetime, Christians weren't the persecuted minority. They were the ones responsible for governing, for justice, for protecting cities from slaughter. Suddenly, a believer might be a magistrate or the soldier standing between raiders and a village of innocent people. The question got real in a new way. So Augustine, in around 400 AD, one of the most important theologians who ever lived, he drew a distinction that has shaped Christian ethics ever since. He separated private vengeance, which Jesus forbids, from the protection of the innocent, which love might actually require. His logic: if you can save an innocent person from a violent attacker and you refuse to act, you haven't been loving. You've abandoned your neighbor to evil. Augustine wrote to a Roman general named Boniface and told him plainly that a soldier could serve God faithfully in that role. That peace is the goal, but sometimes force restrains the wicked so peace can exist. This is where the just war tradition comes from, and later Thomas Aquinas built on it. Aquinas argued that defending your own life is legitimate, that self-preservation is natural and good, as long as your intent is to protect, not to hate or to kill for its own sake. And the protection stream points back into Scripture. Exodus 22 gives Israel actual case law about the homeowner and the nighttime intruder. Nehemiah rebuilt the wall with his workers holding a tool in one hand and a weapon in the other. Jesus himself in Luke 11 uses the image of a strong man, fully armed, guarding his own house so his possessions are safe, and doesn't condemn it. Now, 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 says, a man who doesn't provide for his own household has denied the faith, and many Christians read provide to include protect. That's the case. So that's the case. It's not a flimsy one. Faithful, Bible-loving Christians have held it for 1600 years. And next is going to be the hardest verse. Let me do something most teachers won't. Give each side its hardest verse, the one that should make them a little uncomfortable. Because if a verse only ever confirms what you already think, you're not reading it, you're using it. So, here's the hardest verse for the protection camp. Matthew 26:52. Jesus, being unjustly arrested, tells Peter to put the sword away. All who take the sword will perish by the sword. Jesus had every right to defense. He had 12 legions of angels available, and he chose the cross over the counterstrike. In your whole theology is protect at all costs. You have to sit with the fact that in the single most unjust arrest in history, the Son of God disarmed his own defender. Hardest verse for the nonviolence camp, Luke 22:36. On the same night, Jesus tells his own disciples, the one who has no sword should sell his cloak and buy one. He tells them to acquire weapons. Now, nonviolence readers say this was symbolic or about fulfilling a prophecy about being numbered with transgressors. And they point out that 2 verses later, the disciples produced 2 swords. Jesus says that's enough. possibly cutting off the conversation. Now, that's a fair reading, but you cannot pretend the verse says the opposite of what it says. Jesus that night told his men to be armed. Here's what mature faith looks like. Both of those verses are true. Both are scriptures. And the tension between them is where honest Christians have lived for 2 millennia. Anyone who tells you it's simple is selling you something. Now, after all that tension, watch how much those two streams actually agree on, because the intent makes it sound like a war, and it is not. Both sides agree personal vengeance is dead. Romans 12, do not repay evil for evil. Never avenge yourself. Getting even, holding grudges, the payback fantasy, that's off the table for every Christian, no exception. Nobody's debating that. Both sides agree the goal is peace, not violence. Even Augustine, the just war man, insisted peace is always the objective. Force is only ever a grief, a last resort to restrain evil, never something you want. No Christian tradition celebrates violence. If a man is eager to use force, both streams say his heart is already wrong. Now, both sides also agree hatred disqualifies you. The moment your motive shifts from protect the innocent to I want to make him pay, you've left protection and entered vengeance, and you're back under Jesus' clear prohibition. Aquinas was obsessed with intent for exactly this reason. And both sides agree the real enemy isn't flesh and blood. Ephesians 6. Our actual war is spiritual, fought on our knees. Whatever you conclude about it, the front door, the primary battlefield, is prayer. So the disagreement is narrower than it looks. It's not peace versus violence, it's one hard question. Does love for the innocent ever permit force to protect them? One stream says no, the cross shows a better way. The other says yes, love for your neighbor can demand it. Both are trying to obey the same Lord. So, what do you do this Monday night? Let me bring it home, and let me be honest about my limits. I'm walking you through scripture and church history, not the law. Self-defense is different in every state and country. That's a conversation for a lawyer, not a YouTube video. My job is your heart and your theology. Handle the legal part responsibly and separately. Here's the frame I'd offer for the heart, whichever stream you land in. 1. Decide before the moment, not during it. You will not do a calm theology at 2 a.m. with adrenaline flooding your body and your brain. Settle before God now, in the light that what kind of a man you're called to be. So you're not improvising your ethics in the dark. 2. Examine your want. This is a tell. A man itching for a confrontation, who fantasizes about being the hero, who got more hit in his heart for an intruder than grief over a broken world, that man is not in the protection stream. He is in the vengeance ditch. The heart that reluctant, that would give anything for it never to come to that. That's the only heart either tradition trusts with the question. 3. Refuse to live in fear, whichever way you go. Do not become a paranoid man scanning every parking lot for a threat. God has not given us a spirit of fear. A shepherd is watchful, not terrified. Perfect love casts out fear. If protecting your family has curdled into anxiety that runs your life, something's gonna go wrong. 4. The far more likely test is smaller. You will probably never face the front door. You will definitely face the insult, the disrespect, the guy who cuts you off, the comment that demands a comeback. That's the chick Jesus was actually talking about. And turning it, swallowing your pride, refusing the payback, that's the daily cross most of us are dodging while we debate the dramatic scenario. Win that war first. So, 2 streams, 300 years of Christians who chose to die rather than kill, and 1600 years of Christians who believed love can require you to protect the weak. Both reading the same Bible, both following the same Jesus, both with receipts. I'm not going to hand you a verse and pretend the debate is over, because for 2000 years it hasn't been. And I respect you too much to fake it. What I'll tell you is this: kill the vengeance in your heart. That part is not for debate. Then wrestle honestly with the rest before God before you ever need the answer. If this gave you something real to chew on, do two things: subscribe, hit the bell. This whole channel is the actual, historic, receipt-backed faith. No easy answers, no team jerseys. Now tell me in the comments which stream are you and why. Keep it charitable. Both of those are held by brothers and sisters who love the Lord. I be down there reading. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next one.